Hey, welcome to Middle C Method for Guitars. I'm Mark, and in this video, we're going to take a look at the C3 Octave in 3 positions. But before we jump into it, I want to tell you a guitar inspiration story. I want to tell you a story that goes back to 1975 in the summer about this guy. And I'm not talking about the suave, debonair guy wearing the cut-off jeans and flipping burgers. I'm talking about this little guy, the 6.5-year-old who took a vacation to San Diego. And I also want to tell you about this guy who went to San Francisco in the spring of 2006 and saw a guitar performance that changed his entire guitar playing journey. Now, you have to understand, this is a guy who at the time, only a month before the trip, best gig was playing bass. And as you can see, he does not have a microphone in front of him. And so I want to tell you a story about the performance that I saw in Haight-Ashbury on the street that changed my entire way of seeing the guitar. So I'll tell you the story as we go through the 3 positions. But before we do, I want to show you again why I have made these videos. In the last video, I told you that I made the videos to help my 31-year-old self to learn the fretboard because I knew the cowboy chords, but I needed to learn more. So I want to show you 2 videos that I came across recently that no one has ever seen. You will literally be the first person to see these videos. The first video is of me in December of 2001. You have to understand, this video was made at a time before the iPhones came out in 2008. And before 2008, everyone was not a videographer. In today's society, we've all learned to video. It's what we do. It's convenient and it's in our pocket. But there was a time when it wasn't such a popular thing to do. And in fact, there was a time when if somebody pulled out a video camera, the subject would shy away and not respond. So what I want to do in this video is share with you the reason that I'm doing this and the person that was studying who only knew first position chords. If you're the first person to see this video, please drop me a comment. I'm curious to know who in the world saw for the first time this video, because this video has not been seen by my family. It's not been seen by my spouse. It's not been seen by my friends. Literally, you will be the first person to see this video. And it explains a lot about my 31-year-old self and how one performance could change my entire guitar playing journey. So let's take a look. It appears that quite back a long time ago, I actually was in the study of guitar. And so we're going to go back to, looks like about 1988, with some of the things that was happening to me way back then. Squeeze Box was actually a cool song to play around a campfire. So let's jump into the lessons, and as we go, I'll tell you the story about the 6.5-year-old's trip to San Diego and the 30-year later version of me's trip to San Francisco and the streets of Haight-Ashbury and how that affected my guitar playing journey. So in the summer of 1975, my dad decided to put my 6.5-year-old self and my 11-month younger brother in the back of a brand new Cadillac and drive us from Shreveport, Louisiana to San Diego. Now, my dad wasn't much of a planner, and he didn't think through the fact that he would be driving through multiple deserts. Although he had a brand new 8-track player in the Cadillac he was very proud of, it was brand new Cadillac. And he didn't think through how many 8-tracks he actually had. And it wasn't until he lost his signal for the first time that he realized how important those 8-tracks were going to be for his trip to San Diego. So Paul McCartney and Wings was my very first introduction to the Beatles. And if it wasn't for Band on the Run, I would not have even looked into who the Beatles were. Again, I was only 6.5 years old. And if it wasn't for Paul McCartney and Wings and that 8-track, I would have never learned about the Beatles. It wasn't like at 6 years old I knew who the Beatles were, or I understood what my mom was listening to when she listened to Rod Stewart or whatever she was listening to back in 1975. And so the 3 8-tracks that my dad had in the car had to be listened to multiple times to get us through all the deserts that we had to go through to get from where we were going. All right. Okay, now we can see that we have our root note in the C3 octave on the 3rd fret of the A string. We have our flattened third 3 places below on the 6th fret of the A string. We have our 4 on the 3rd fret of the D string. We have our 5, 2 frets down. We have our flat 7, and we have our octave, which is our middle C at the 5th fret. And so when you look at this pattern, you see a box that forms between the 8, our middle C at 5, the flat 7, the 5, the 4. You see this box that gets created. And then you have a piece of the box that moves 1 fret difference. And so once you commit how this pentatonic works, going down from your C at the 5th fret on the G string, and you move in the roots of the pentatonic tree and you move down, what you can see is that you're going to learn a new shape that has a box containing the 4, the 5, the flat 7, and the 8. And so let me switch over to a different screen and I'll show you how the guitar works in this position, and then we'll move on with the second position. Okay, so let's take a look at the first position C3 octave with the pentatonic scale that we have here on the screen, and I will try and zoom this in for you and show you where we are when we're actually playing this pentatonic scale. So we have our octave anchor here at the 5th fret, and there's our flat 7, 2 down, there's our 5, there's our 4, there's our flat 3, there's our 1. So if we look at the exercise I was doing in the first lesson where we looked at the C4 pentatonic and you go down, you see what I was doing. Right? so at this position, you can see by looking at the guitar that by using your middle C anchor, let me see if I can move my hand so you can see it. By using this middle C anchor right here and working with this box, those four, right? Your A, flat 7, 5, 4, and all you need is your flat 3 and your 1. And so that's first position. Let me switch over and I will get back to the next position in our story. Give me just a second to set it up. So now we're going to take a look at the relationship in the second position where our anchor is on the 10th fret of the D string and our other C3 anchor is on the 8th fret of the E string. So the other 8 tracks that he had in the car were Superfly by Curtis Mayfield, which I did not comprehend at all. I mean, as a 6-year-old, I didn't understand that music. That music didn't make any sense at all to me. And so I had no interest in listening to that album as he drove. The third album that he had in the car with him was Jim Croce's original album where he is on the cover sitting in the windowsill of the old building. And that is the album that hit me. That is the album that stuck with me to this day. There was something, at the time I didn't know it. At the time I was 6.5 years old, right? At the time I didn't have any idea that there was more than one guitar player playing in that album. And as much as I loved all of the songs on the album, I fell in love with the entire album, right? It all made sense to me. But I had no idea that Maury Muehlhausen was the classical guitar player that was playing all the parts that I enjoyed, all the classical runs as fast as he was playing. I had no idea that that's who was playing guitar as a 6.5-year-old. And as I got older, my love for that song wouldn't go away. I mean, when I was 8 years old, I would ride my bicycle down the street, sit underneath the tree on Sunday afternoon just so I could listen to Casey Kasem's Top 40 and I could hear Jim Croce because that was the only way I could catch him back in, 1977. And so the those 8 tracks, and especially Jim Croce, became an important influence for me throughout my guitar playing journey because every time I heard Jim Croce, it would remind me of that trip and it would remind me of all those memories of sitting and having to listen over and over and over again because that's all my father managed to bring with him, right? And so let me get the rest of these in here. As a result of my influence over the years as I received a guitar from my grandfather when I was 8 years old and then went off to college and started learning how to play the first position chords. Over the years, I struggled, I strived, I really wanted to play the Jim Croce songs that I heard, and I tried to learn as much as I could about the guitar, and I never really understood why that song was out of reach for me, no matter how hard I tried to learn to play the guitar. And I didn't understand how it was that Maury had skill set that even Jim Croce needed, right? Because even Jim was just playing the first position chords in his song. Okay, let me add One last 8. Okay, so now when we look at the board in this position, it becomes obvious to us real quick that we're using the same square box for our 4, for our 5, for our flattened 7, and for our octave 8. And we have the same relationship between the 1 here at the 8th fret on the E and our flattened 3rd down here at the 11th fret on the E. 1 fret before the 12 where everything repeats. And so let's move forward and we'll take a look at the last position and see how that works. Okay, so now when we're looking at it in the middle C anchor in the 10 spot on the D string, and we look at the C3 octave, we're going back 2 frets and over 2 frets so that we're now looking at the octave on the 8th fret of the E string, right? So we have our power chord box. We have our middle C, flat 7, 5, 4, flat 3, and our 1. And so we have the same box that we had up here. And we're using the same pattern. So all we have to do is go to our anchor on 10, and we can do the same exercise. Right? And we have the exact same sounds in the second position. Now we'll move on and take a look at the third position and see the challenges we have there in trying to use the C3 octave when we're anchoring with our middle C on the 15th fret of the A string. Okay, let's take a look at the third position, and I will put our anchor in here. And I'll put our second anchor in here at the C on the 15th. And so the impact of Jim Croce was profound, and the inability to play like Maury Muehlhausen was equally frustrating for me. I mean, as you saw in the beginning, I was playing bass and trying to learn as much as I could about the guitar, and it was one of those experiences that I really can't put into words, because when I saw the performance, it changed everything. The performance that I'm going to show you in a moment changed my whole experience with the guitar, because I was finally starting to recognize, find the songs you love and play them, and find a way to play them that makes sense for you. Okay, so the thing I wanted to point out about working down here in this position is that we have our C3 octave here on the 8th fret that we're working back towards if we're using our C root in the C4 octave at the 15th fret of the A. What we're actually going to be doing is moving from our 8 down to our flat 7. We have our 5 and our 4, and then we have to walk down, and I'll show you that when I play the guitar. We have to walk down to get to this C3 octave at the 8, because we're using that common C3 octave at the 8, whether we're going straight across and making a 1, a 4, and a 5, right? Or we're going straight down and we're making a 1, a flat 3, a 4, and a 5. As you see here, the 8, the flat 7, the 5, and the 4 have the same relationship. And I can add these last two here. Let me just throw these in real quick for you. Here's your flat 7, and here's your other root. I'll just go ahead and mark them for you real quick. Here's your other 8. We remember from the 10 position on the D string. And this is your other flat 7 that we used. So now you can see, and I'll show you on the guitar, how it flows back from one to the other. Now if we look at the guitar with our C3 octave down here at the 15, where we have our middle C, and we see that we're working with a much smaller area down in this part of the neck. And so here's our 8, flat 7, 5, flat 3, and our okay. And so that run feels different in how we have to lift our fingers and move. So if I'm trying to do the same exercise that I've been doing, and I try and do it down here, you're going to see that when I move, it's harder to do, right? And so simply because you know that you can make a move and you know that you can do a run doesn't necessarily mean that it works the same way in each position. And that's what I wanted to point out to you, is that when you're working down here and you have your anchor at the 15th fret, you're either moving back or you're going to go to your anchor at the 10th fret on the D string. Right? It's much easier to use the second position where your anchor is at the 10th fret of the D string. Right? And so hopefully that helps. So hopefully that helps you to understand a little bit more about the guitar in each of these three positions in the C3 octave. And if you learned anything from this, please like, subscribe, and share. Help others to break out of the cowboy position chords and learn the entire fretboard in an easy way using the 1, 5, 10, 15, and 20. So I just want to finish my story, show you the performance that changed the way I see the guitar and brought one of my favorite songs from when I was 6.5 years old, riding in the back of a Cadillac, a song that I attached to and became one of the signature songs in my guitar playing journey. I want you to see the performance that changed my perspective and allowed me to bring operator into my repertoire and be able to actually play the song. So let me switch over and I will show you that performance. I just want to say one last thing. This performance, I had no idea that it was recorded. For me, it was just a memory in my mind's eye. It was something that changed the way I saw everything, and it mattered a lot to me. But until a few months ago, I didn't even know it had been recorded. I was going through some old 8mm film and I found the video. Unlike the first video I showed you of me struggling to learn the guitar when I was young, I knew I made that video. This video that I'm about to show you was only in my memory, and I had no idea that it had been shot until I found it. And it's what propelled me forward to make these videos and to create this channel. I hope you enjoy the performance, and I hope you can see the way in which I was enjoying the performance as I sang along. The only person that was enjoying the performance. Let's take a look.
Well, my best on it's feeling rain. Gosh, she says she knew and she sometimes hated. There's another way to say it goes. Let's forget all that. Give me the number if you can't find it. I can't call just to tell my fight and sure. I'd love to tell you well, I wish my words could convince myself that it just wasn't real. That's not the way it feels.
Mark Chandler. He was paid this dude too bad. He wants to
I'm a
drown.
reader. Can you help me place this song? No. Something in my eyes, you know it happens every time. I think about love that I thought would save me. There's another way to say it goes. Let's forget all that. Give me the numbers you can't find. So I can call just to tell them I'm fine and show. I learned to tell you well. I wish my
Unfortunately, my wife didn't get the entire performance, and you don't get to hear me sing the rest of the song with him, but you can tell from seeing the video how moved I was to see someone playing a song that mattered to me since I was a little kid, with no audience. I was the only person that even stopped to watch him. You can see all the traffic moving around him, ignoring him. I guess it was a very common thing in Haight-Ashbury to have people sitting on, any random corner playing guitar like that. But for me, somebody from East Texas, that's not a common thing to see. And it's even more rare to see somebody playing your favorite song, Operator, in a way that takes it out of the classical guitar sound and makes it accessible to me as a first position cowboy chord player. And that's why I wanted you to see that, because you may love a song and it may be slightly out of reach for you. But if you learn the basics of the song and do your best to understand where the artist was coming from, for example, in the Operator song, you can see Jim Croce playing exactly what the street performer was playing, and Maury Muehlheisen, if you find some footage of him playing Operator, you'll see the classical guitar player behind him. So when you hear a song and you think it's out of reach, it's not. It's just a matter of reinterpreting it within your skill set. And I want to encourage you to do that with every song you love. And I want you to look forward to everything you do in your guitar journey, because every day you get a little bit better, and every day you learn something new that you can put in your gig bag. If you learned something, please like, subscribe, and share so others who are working in first position using the cowboy chords can break out and learn the entire fretboard. See you in the next video.